White House Border Czar Tom Homan joins me now, former director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Tom, it's great to have you on the show. First, I want to hear how the officer who was shot is doing. You visited that ICE agent in the hospital, spoke to his family. What's the latest on his condition?
Well, look, they think he's going to live. I mean, he's fighting for his life. He's in bad shape. I mean, when I was there, he was heavily sedated, so he wasn't conscious. They're trying to keep him heavily sedated till some of the swelling goes down, so he can have surgery, additional surgery. So I did talk to his mom and his friend that was with him that night, and they're still in shock. Their heart's broken. I mean, this man's laying in bed, in terrible shape, and just for sitting on a park bench with his friend, next to the water. I mean. And this has happened numerous times in New York City. And this time it happened to be a federation, but we've all seen the videos of illegal aliens in Times Square attacking NYPD officers and average United States citizens. It's enough. I mean, criminal aliens have no place walking the streets of America attacking American citizens.
The shooter was caught at the border in Arizona in 2023 when he crossed over illegally. He had an active deportation order. Why was he released? Were there any conditions attached to that release?
Oh, no. I looked at the file. He was released OR on his own recognizance. So, this is what the Biden administration did. 10.5 million people came to the border. They released millions into the United States without proper vetting. Both of these people, the shooter and his accomplice, both entered under the Biden administration. Both were released. Both are criminals. And this is why President Trump came into office, and first thing we did under President Trump's leadership, we ended catch and release. The law is clear, the federal law is clear. When you come to our border illegally and you don't have proper documentation to enter, the law says you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, not release them to an NGO, not send them to New York City. It says they shall be detained, and that's what President Trump has done. We're enforcing law. No one is being released from the border when they enter illegally.
This man who shot the off-duty officer had several prior arrests in New York City and in Massachusetts, including for robbery and stabbing. Why wasn't he in custody pending trial? It's amazing that this man was released after being charged with crimes as serious as these.
Well, there's a lot of people that follow here. You got Governor Hochul, who supports, the bail reform law. So people walk out of the NYPD precincts every day. They walk out of sheriff stations every day across the state because there's the bail reform law that New York State passes and Governor Hochul supports. Shame on her. But look, the NYPD is not allowed to work with ICE on a continuing basis because there's sanctuary law. And I blame the city council. City council created that sanctuary city law. I had arrangements to actually have ICE get back into Rikers Island. City council stopped that. I mean, city council's #1 responsibility, I would think, is protection of their communities, protection of the constituents. And ICE was close to getting back into Rikers Island where we can talk to the bad guy in the safe setting. And if we want to detain him, take custody of him and the safety and security of a jail rather than release him to the street. And then we have to go find him. And while we're finding him, commit other crimes. But the city council sued and stopped that.
Yeah.
So I put a lot of blame on the city council for the sanctuary laws and pushing back on us trying to do the right thing in New York City.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, in that news conference the two of you appeared in today, also blamed Mayor Eric Adams and the sanctuary city policy. She said this officer is in the hospital fighting for his life because of the mayor of this city. Do you agree with that? Was this a failure by Mayor Adams?
Look, there's an election going on right now as a White House employee. I got to be careful violating Hatch Act. There's an election ongoing. So let me just say this. I don't want to get into politics in this. Politics is why we're in the position we're in. People put politics over public safety. And every sanctuary city does it. New York, LA, Chicago. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So bottom line is sanctuaries are sanctuaries for criminals. Every elected official, mayor, governor, city council person, they're elected to in their #1 responsibility is protection of the communities and sanctuary city policies. Sanctuaries are sanctuaries for criminals, but they want to say they want to put out, well, we're a sanctuary because we want victims and witnesses of crime in the immigrant community to feel welcome to come and report their crime and not worry about we're working with ICE. That is just a bunch of crap, because victims and witnesses of a crime don't want the bad guy released in the neighborhood either. So work with ICE. Let us have custody of the bad guy in a safety and security county jail and watch the crime rate drop. Already we arrested 3 times more criminals under President Trump than President Biden did. Every day we make this country safer. Every day when ICE takes a public safety threat off the street or a national security threat off the street, we're keeping this country safer and keeping President Trump's promise to the American people that we're going to make America safe again.
We just heard Mayor Eric Adams today saying he actually welcomes ICE agents to come onto the streets of New York City. As you said, they're coming. We're going to flood the zone. But he drew the line only to arrest immigrants with criminal records, not to arrest other immigrants who have no criminal record. What did you make of those comments by the mayor?
Well, bottom line is President Trump and myself have been saying from day one, our priorities are public safety threats and national security threats. That's who we're focusing on. But like I said earlier, when you showed my comments earlier, but when they force us into the neighborhood, because they won't let us into jail, when they force us into the neighborhood to find that bad guy, many times we find others. Others that aren't a criminal target, but they're in the U.S. illegally, we're not walking away from them. We're not telling ICE officers, ignore the law, ignore the oath you took. He's illegally in the United States, but don't worry about it. No, we're taking them in custody too. And as I said during my remarks today, if you don't want us in the jail, we're going to have to go to the community and find them, which means more officers in the neighborhood, more officers and worksite enforcement, because we're going to find that criminal alien. So again, I'll say it again, let us in the jail. More officers in the jail means less officers on the street.
The Manhattan Borough president says ICE can and does arrest people at the Rikers jail. He says ICE just needs a warrant. What do you make of that? Is that true? And is there an issue or a delay getting the warrants, or is it an added administrative and bureaucratic step?
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He ought to read the law. Because when Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act, the requirement ICE has to take custody of somebody in jail is a detainer and administrative warrant. We don't need a judge's warrant. The law's not written that way. But they like to say that, well, get a judicial warrant, knowing that judicial warrant's not even in the process, as a way to push back and try to defend their bad policy. We don't need a judicial warrant. We have an administrative warrant. That's what the law requires, accept our judicial warrant. Many sheriffs across this country accept the judicial warrant. But sanctuary cities, they'll use that byline as a way to push back on the truth. The truth is we don't need a judicial warrant. We issue an administrative warrant. That's what law requires. They can hand them over. And look, bottom line is, let's they could actually hand them over to us. Just call us before you release them. You don't have to hold them 1 minute past you would normally hold them. Just call us when you release them, and we'll be there. You don't have to hold them for a minute. We'll be there. We'll take them.
Right.
But it's a judicial warrant, not needed. The law don't require it.
Worth reminding our audience, you're talking about people who are in prison or in jail and who are either accused of, credibly accused, or convicted of crimes. Tom Homan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Don't be a stranger. We'd love to have you back.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.